Kazakhstan International Vectors program informs you about international relations, political opinions, economic solutions, and social development. A society where the elderly people are not respected and a society that doesn't like youth are equally imperfect. André Marois, French writer. Youth unemployment in the world is growing. How to establish a dialogue between the employer and the intern. Young people, the main potential of Southeast Asia. What makes the rural youth in Kazakhstan stay in the game? Youth has always been the mouthpiece of the freshest ideas, a driving force for the progress of any state. That is why countries who are thinking about their future pay great attention to youth and youth policy. Today we live in a world where young people make up the majority of the world's population. Global statistics show that 60% of the population in the countries where UNDP works globally are young people aged from 14 to 25 years. Kazakhstan statistics tells us that young people make up 30% of the population. In countries where the population is constantly growing, including Kazakhstan, the number of young people continuously increases. They are the center of political attention because people in power understand that in 10 to 15 years, young people will build the present and the future of the state. The youth movement and youth policy in the last 20 years have become the center of studies at the UN and UNESCO. I would like to recall here that firstly in 1999 the World Youth Day was established, and in 2000 the UN adopted a strategy with respect to youth that still works. It has been over 25 years ago. The state policy must necessarily take into account the fact that young people are always in need for education and development, and also to provide a decent life for their families and other social guarantees. One of the most important needs of young people is the need for employment. At the moment, young people account for about 25% of the world's population, that is, about 1.8 billion people. According to statistics, 88% of them are literate. A number of the unemployed among them is more than 13%. This is a record level over the last 10 years. It can be concluded that the problem of education in the world today is solved better than the employment problem. All countries, both developed and developing, are facing the same challenges. The large gap between the levels of school and university education, between the knowledge gained at the university and the requirements of the employer. You know what? Unemployment is the bane for all countries for some reason, because now with highly technological society there is a huge demand for specialists, and a person who has just finished school or university, you know, even with the amount of knowledge he or she received, only possesses that knowledge theoretically and is not yet a full worker. Bridging this gap should be at least two-sided. The employer must be prepared to teach his young employee to help him or her and the young intern in turn as soon as possible to decide on a profession and gain the necessary skills. We recently flew to Astana. There has just been an international regional conference dedicated to the issues such as the use of information and communication technologies for education in the school. To the guys, somewhere by the age of 17 years, have imagined what they want, where they will go to work, and try to bring together employers and those who provide the educational processes. However, education and deployment, that's not all. The youth is known to be susceptible to any new ideas, and today it is a big problem for modern society. Take, for example, the current situation in the world. You see a surge of terrorism. All these people, all these radicals are mainly young people. Our task, therefore, including UNESCO's task, is to find such tools so that young people can understand that they belong here, to their own country. They have to build a normal life and not go fighting on the imaginary barricades in Syria or in Iraq. Previously, the UN believed that passion for radical ideas comes from poor living conditions and low level of education. Today, analysts have realized that it is not in the level of education, but rather in the upbringing of young people. We try through education to give young people a new opportunity to participate in building a new life. But at the same time, a completely new segment is emerging: education in the framework of global citizenship. Because we understand that a university degree does not give anything, as I have said, that these attacks have proven. So the question is to educate young people in a spirit of global citizenship, in the spirit of tolerance, in the spirit of patience. Today, the United Nations is developing a program in the framework of the formation of a global citizenship. And the task of every state is always listen to the new needs of young people and moods, and thereafter adjust its youth policy. For the title of the best education system in the world, for many years have been struggling Japan, South Korea and Finland. In the Scandinavian country, children start going to school at the age of 7 years and almost 6 years do not receive assessments and homework. Education in the country is free to all. In addition, children are fed for free and have a transfer from house to school and back. Higher education is also free of charge, including for foreign students. The system has been successful thanks to the radical reforms of the 1980s. Since then, all the educational institutions in the country are well equipped and each teacher receives a decent salary, and this profession is one of the most prestigious. Every fourth teacher in the country is male. New Youth Forum appeared in Kazakhstan and why it is beneficial to be a volunteer. The UN has set its interest in the youth policy back in the 90s. The UN program covers 15 areas: education, employment, hunger and poverty, health, environment, drug abuse, juvenile delinquency, leisure, girls and young women, full and effective participation of youth in the society and in decision-making, globalization, information communication technologies, HIV and AIDS, armed conflicts, questions of relations between the generations. The role of youth is actually a huge part of the life in each country. First, it is the main part of the population, and in the Pacific Asia region actually there is more than half of young people, even in the 3-4 times. But it is the most dynamic part of the population. I must say the Asian Pacific region is paying a great attention to youth. Look at countries like China, Japan and India. They have a huge interest in this. They have developed a special youth policy. Each region still has its own problems. For example, in Western Europe, young people have lost the interest in education and their own future, as they are guaranteed to receive unemployment benefits. In Eastern Europe and some developing countries, the problem is in finding a job with a decent wage. Up to 60% of young people in developing countries do not study and do not work. In the world, about 20% of young people aged from 15 to 29 years want to go abroad in search of better wages and a better life. In the countries of Sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America, this is the dream of 38%, and in Eastern Europe, 37%. Another problem which the UN is engaged in, the growth of radical sentiments among young people. In December 2015, the UN Security Council passed a resolution that recognizes this mood as a threat to stability and development. The main objective of the United Nations today is the development of educational programs and the impact on the state representatives with the aim to pay more attention to young people. It should be noted that young people in Kazakhstan are massively involved in the preservation of cultural heritage. During the event in honor of the 1000th anniversary of Almaty, we were faced with the fact that it was just a large number of young people who volunteer at the event. Youth Forum that we held in Almaty at the end of the summer aroused great interest. The guys came from Kyrgyzstan, and we had participants from the Czech Republic, Germany and Spain.
Форум как такое внутриказахстанское мероприятие, да?
Almaty City Administration, in cooperation with UNESCO, took the decision to hold this forum annually. Also, it managed to get the support of the General Consulate of Germany, France and South Korea.
Я думаю,
I think the next year we will hold this event having a great success. We will invite Almaty University's rectors and heads of diplomatic missions. The interest in the youth is great among everybody. Once people heard the youth, they got interested. And the theme of this forum was linked to sustainable development, hence we immediately received massive interest.
развитием.
About 30% of Kazakhstan's population today, young people aged from 15 to 29 years. For example, in Almaty, in this category of the population falls every third person, and all of them are full of strength to work for the state. It is only necessary to help them find themselves. For the first time, we are using the project approach, meaning we have allocated money for projects 289 million tenge during the year we will devote to the development and promotion of 21 projects. Of this amount, 50% of the money allocated to the aid and the organization of youth employment, we're emphasizing on it right now. Methods of promoting youth policy in Kazakhstan today also focus on young people. The news young people can learn from social networks, including the information on employment projects. In 2016, 70 million tenge has been allocated in Almaty under the program Jasil Yel. 1,750 people were employed and received 40,000 tenge salaries. They were provided with food and dormitories. The amount allocated from the city budget for projects this year twice as much as in the past. The youth policy management takes into account the interests of young people. This year, for the first time, they're developing humor projects like KVN, debates and similar events. Kazakhstan continues urbanization or the influx of people from the rural areas to big cities. This happens primarily due to rural youth. This is also taken into account in the preparation of youth policy programs. For the first time this year, on October 1st, we will have 2 centers operating for the rural youth. We are well aware that the city of Almaty has a strong urbanization. Migration is high. About 30,000 of young people every year come here for the dream of a good education for them, to see such a beautiful city and got such knowledge that they will use tomorrow, well, to use in his or her life. In this regard, we are centered on the work with rural youth. We will be engaged to help young people, for example, on how to write a resume. Various forums, a great way for young people to show themselves and to assess their capabilities. This year, for the first time, Almaty hosted the first youth forum dedicated to sustainable development. This year's topic is the 12th goal of sustainable development, a responsible production and consumption. Accordingly, there are water resources, energy, environment and food. Therefore, the UNESCO Cluster Office in Almaty for Central Asia has decided to initiate the forum to give young people a platform to express themselves and present their projects and startups to experts from international organizations, public authorities and various multinational companies. Of these 75 applications for the forum were selected 26 participants who represented Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan and even Spain. They all presented their projects and were evaluated by independent experts. So Almaty Development Center posted its ability to support innovative projects, and the Council of Youth Scientists at the foundation of the first president and the United Nations Development Programme and UNESCO, all of us are ready to support our youth. The main thing is that they are more mobile, more social and more innovative. In order for us to still reach the 17-year Sustainable Development Goals and make our home better. This forum should become an annual event. State considers the more organized are young people, the more protected they are from the negative sentiment in the society. Particular attention is paid to the volunteer movement. We want to strengthen the work of volunteers, because we are coming with Universiade, 100% participation. There should be young people. This is Student Universiade, which will be open to all students. This should become the show for the youth. We must understand that the youth is involved. Same with the Expo in 2017. Almaty is thus the main region, the main town to which all regions of Kazakhstan are smoothed. For future volunteers, the workshops on personal growth and public speaking are already being conducted. They are also trained to be guides.